The Bugmen were a reviled cult organization that terrorized a sector of space with their nefarious activities. Led by an entity that was only known as the Father, the cult was comprised of human-alien hybrids, or the Bugmen, who had undergone a grotesque transformation due to prolonged exposure to xenomorph royal jelly. The Bugmen's influence over the xenomorphs was something never seen before, and they could communicate with them to a certain extent, assisting them in their quest to expand their infestation. They engaged in brutal skirmishes with human-inhabited facilities, kidnapping survivors and transforming them into their kind. The Bugmen were finally brought to justice when Lieutenant Joseph Henry and his team of Marines sacrificed themselves to destroy their base of operations, putting an end to their reign of terror. In this video, we'll dive deeper into the appearance, origins, and activities of the Bugmen, examining the chilling effects they had on the sector of space they once held in their tyrannical grip, as seen in the 10 issues of the comic Aliens: Colonial Marines. Let's begin, shall we? Really quickly, before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The Bugmen and their father. The Sun Gun, or the KL-7 toxic waste disposal facility located in the depths of space, found itself in a giant mess when it came under a xenomorph attack. The crew of Sun Gun found an unregistered ship named Liang that was docked at their station. When a search party from the Sun Gun went in to check out Liang, they discovered that Liang's crew was dead, but the discovery of a small xenomorph hive aboard the Liang threw the security personnel of the Sun Gun into a battle with terrible odds. To make matters worse, Corciani, the operations center head, sealed the Xenos and security personnel in the Tox Bay before trying to detach the Tox Bay from the ship. However, before that could be done, the stars of today's show, the Bugmen, blasted the door with their plasma cannons, which allowed the biometallic slimy killers into the Sun Gun and let them kill all but one of the crew members. This was the first time we got to see these Bugmen. One of them said, "Seek out the rest of the children, make them ready to meet the father." It seemed that these freaks were able to work in tandem with the xenomorphs and were actually communicating with the creatures. And although they looked humanoid and spoke English, they were far from human. These pitiable creatures boast oversized craniums, complete with enlarged ear holes, and are often bereft of hair, save for a few scant strands. Some among their number even sport curious tendrils that dangle from the back of their heads, lending them an air of both strangeness and otherworldly elegance. Don't worry, we'll explore how they became what they became soon. But meanwhile, the USS Melville was preparing for its journey to the space waste facility, and leading the crew of the Melville was Lieutenant Joseph Henry. The stage was being set for an epic war. Joseph Henry was a man born into a life of privilege as the product of an affair between the chairman of the Armed Services Committee and an unnamed woman. Despite growing up in the shadow of his father's political power and influence, Henry forged his own path by joining the Marines, a decision that didn't sit well with his mother, who had hoped he would serve the public on Earth. Throughout his career, he acquired a reputation for insubordination, which his father would repeatedly smooth over, much to Joseph's chagrin. However, his latest transgression, assaulting a superior officer who was in the act of brutalizing an underage prostitute, proved to be a bridge too far, even though Lieutenant Henry was obviously in the right. Stationed on the Frontier Mobile Base 82 Dover, he was given command of the USS Melville, along with its unruly crew, as a punishment. Their mission? Escorting toxic waste to Alpha Tech's waste disposal facility, Sun Gun, and transporting Alpha Tech personnel to a deep space communication array. Alpha Tech Hardware Inc. was a major military contractor for the United Americas, the United States Colonial Marine Corps, and remained a major player when it came to the manufacturing of weapons and vehicles. Henry's introduction to an executive named Beliveau at Alpha Tech was cordial, but it wasn't long before he was interrupted by Sergeant Nyland, who warned him of the challenges he'd face with his undisciplined team of Marines. After getting acquainted with his crew and the Alpha Tech security synthetic, Liston, who was a security class synthetic, Henry ordered his team to enter hypersleep. Upon arriving at the Sun Gun facility, attempts to make contact were met with silence. Sensing trouble, Henry insisted on waking his Marines, despite Belliveau's protestations that it was a non-military matter. It almost seemed like Beliveau didn't want Henry's squad to go in. With tensions rising, the stage was set for a conflict that would test the limits of Henry's leadership and the abilities of his motley crew. Interestingly enough, Henry's Marine squad, which was denoted as the worst squad ever, also had Carmen Vasquez, the younger sister of Jeanette Vasquez from the movie Aliens. She wanted to become tough like her sister, but just wanting something doesn't mean you get it. a battle with Xenos, and the capture of a Bugman. Before Henry could actually wake his squad from hypersleep and send them in, Beliveau sent his own team, led by his chief security advisor Vormitog. However, the entire team was ambushed and killed, and Vormitog, the only survivor, was fed with royal jelly by the Bugmen. Surprisingly enough, they were surrounded by Xenomorphs, but the Xenos seemed to consider them friendly. Back on the Melville, Henry was worried that both the facility and Belivaux's detail had gone radio silent. By now, his Marines were awake, but they were in no mood to enter Sungun. He had to physically make their posteriors get to work, and before long, they entered the facility. They first encountered a Xenomorph carcass and were clearly shocked and scared to their bones, but the worst was yet to come. The Xenomorphs had built a hive in the Tox Bay, and they all attacked Henry's squad. The carnage was insurmountable, with both Xenomorphs and humans spilling each other's blood. After the assault, the Marines made their way to the zero-gravity well and managed to purge most of the biometallic monsters by opening the Tox Bay hatch and expelling them into space. Fortunately for the squad, they saved Dinkel, a crew member of the Sungun, and Vormitog, who was Belleveu's guy, and apart from these, they successfully took one of the Bugmen hostage. Without wasting any more time, Henry and his juniors retreated back to the safety of the Melville. The Bugmen and their great plan for the universe. When Beliveau and others interrogated Mr. Bugsy, he said some pretty crazy stuff. So the Bugmen were disciples of someone they addressed only as father, and considered humans as heathen worthy of genocide. According to him, their ultimate goal was the purification of space from the bastard children of Earth, where the space belonged only to the children of the father. Worry not, we'll soon get to know what or who this father guy is. Additionally, the Bugman said that Mother could not see to such cleansing as she only cared about survival, but apparently the father knows that space has been corrupted and poisoned and must be cleansed of the plague that is humanity by the true angels. Well, yeah, by angels he means the Xenomorphs. But the Bugman says one thing that sheds a lot of light on his kind. As I become one with the children, I can see their beauty. As I change, I become more divine. And if you'd remember, the Bugmen fed Vormitog some royal jelly when he was their captive. Doesn't take a Batman to join the dots and conclude that their current physical and mental state was because of their constant use of the royal jelly produced by a Xenomorph queen. This is how they were able to communicate and coordinate with the Xenomorphs, and they even controlled the Xenos to a limited extent. But the question that looms large is, how were they getting their hands on the royal jelly? At the end of the third issue, it's revealed that many of the Sungun crew members had been taken by the Bugmen to be presented before the father, in a place that they called Heaven. Aquatic Xenomorph and a prelude to the war against Bugman. Henry had originally intended to abandon Beliveau, Liston, and Vormitog on the aquatic planet of Bracken's world and make his way back to base. However, upon reaching orbit, the team was captivated by a mysterious local communication link connected to a subspace array situated in a kelp farm. In response, Henry led his team on a mission to investigate the signal, which led them to an Alpha Tech outpost. Alas, they were met with an ambush by Bugmen armed with Alpha Tech weaponry. Though they managed to escape the clutches of the ambush with the help of Maryland driving an APC, the team found themselves stranded in the vast kelp farms, where they encountered multiple attacks by aquatic xenomorphs. The swimming alien, as its name suggests, possessed a unique physical form that allowed it to maneuver with ease in aquatic environments. The upper half of its body resembled a typical xenomorph, with the exception of webbed hands, while the lower half was characterized by a large tail featuring a lobster-like tail fan, rather than legs. This tail was further equipped with 3 pairs of pleopods, or swimming legs, though their functionality on land remains unclear. Similar to other common xenomorph casts, the swimmer possessed a dark mesoskeleton with a striking blue hue. It had shorter dorsal tubes in comparison to the typical alien, excepting the runner who had no tubes at all. Interestingly, the swimmer also exhibited thin tendrils that hung off the side of its lower jaw, much like the Queen Mother, albeit not as long. Fortunately, Nyland and Vasquez arrived on the command of another dropship and safely transported the group to Sector 1, a small colony where they could seek refuge. The transmission they had witnessed at the outpost had left Henry agitated and distrustful of his team. In a bid to ensure their loyalty, he made the fateful decision to acquire miniature explosive implants with the intention of injecting them into the necks of his team members. In the meantime, the local governor requested the team's assistance in dealing with the xenomorphs, and Henry found himself taking charge of the colony's defense. Together with a local legend named Herc Mondo, Henry and his team engaged in a skirmish with the aquatic xenomorphs. Though they managed to quell the xenomorph threat, the colony was left in ruins, disobedience, and Henry was reprimanded by the council for the destruction of their farms. Nevertheless, Henry remained obstinate and fiercely defended his actions. In a twist of fate, Beliveau contacts him, requesting to be taken along with Vormitog. Remember, unbeknownst to almost anyone else, Vormitog was now working with the Bugmen and the Xenomorphs after consuming the royal jelly. Although Henry initially refused, his curiosity was piqued when Beliveau hinted at classified information that he could share with him. It was a turning point for Henry, as he eventually changed his mind, leading him on an unexpected path towards unraveling the mysteries of Bracken's world. Conclusion. Henry briefed the Marines on the dire situation they faced, revealing to their shock that he had implanted microbombs in their necks. Naturally, they didn't have many options. However, this may have been a necessary step because the Bugmen needed to be stopped at all costs. Their existence raised numerous questions. Were they merely mutated life forms because of the consumption of the royal jelly, or had they been genetically modified or engineered to possess their peculiar abilities? Their true nature remained shrouded in mystery, and the only thing that was certain was their lethal capacity for destruction. The Bugmen's connection to royal jelly, the substance that fueled their strength and provided sustenance, was a particularly curious aspect of their biology. Their dependence on the jelly made them vulnerable to withdrawal, causing them to suffer from extreme mental and physical deterioration. The Marines soon found themselves stranded, with the destruction of the Melville ship leaving them at the mercy of these monstrous beings. Belivaux's weapons cache and faster-than-light capable spacecraft provided them with a glimmer of hope, but their escape was marred by another Xenomorph ambush. Despite the odds stacked against them, the shop steward, a synthetic program to safeguard the Joliet mining facility, had been leading a small militia of prototype synthetics to fend off the Xenomorph attacks. The presence of the Bugmen was not limited to the comm array alone, as they had infested Alpha Tech's research station number 2378. Here, hordes of Xenomorphs had completely overrun the facility, posing an even greater threat to the Marines. Yet, Liston's swift and efficient response to the imminent danger allowed them to download all necessary data, ultimately leading them to the Bugmen's primary base. Here, amidst the chaotic turmoil, Henry launched a full-scale assault to the station's core, determined to reach Alan Bradshaw, the supposed culprit behind the loss of the communications array. But as the Marines battled their way through the Bugmen's stronghold, they encountered the entity known only as Father. It was revealed that the Bugmen were merely tools used by the Father, who was none other than the scientist Ernst Kleist, the man responsible for the creation of the King Xenomorph, a genetically modified xenomorph that Kleist wanted to use to control all other xenomorphs. However, that plan never really worked out, and the King was killed by a xenomorph queen. These events had taken place in Alien's Rogue, and Kleist had seemingly died there. Clearly, he managed to survive at the end of Alien Rogue. Nevertheless, Kleist was finally killed by Henry in his stronghold, thus ending the nefarious and dangerous empire of the mad scientist. The Marines, despite their bravery and skill, were tested to their limits by these unknown foes. In the end, it was only through Liston's quick thinking and Henry's final request that they were able to escape the Bugmen's grasp and make it back to safety. Marvelous verdict. Throughout the Alien franchise, we've been introduced to various abominations and mutated humans that have left a lasting impression on viewers. From the twisted experiments of Weyland-Yutani to the terrifying mutations brought on by exposure to xenomorph royal jelly, these creatures serve as a reminder that people in the Alien universe love playing God and completely ignore the unpredictability of the universe. The most notable of these abominations are undoubtedly the xenomorphs themselves. That's it for now, but if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.